I'm 27 and I've never been in love. All my friends are in relationships, getting married, having kids. And I pretend like I'm fine, but inside I'm just empty. I think I've just made the dumbest decision of my life. I actually hired a private investigator to spy on my boss because I suspected he was stealing from the company. And guess what? He was. But that's not even the worst part. The real nightmare is what else the detective uncovered. Things I never wanted to know, things that might destroy not only him but me as well if they ever come out. So here's the backstory. I work at a mid-sized logistics firm, the kind of place where the hours are long, the coffee is always cold, and everyone knows everyone else's business, at least on the surface. I've been there 5 years, and to be honest, I've always thought my boss, let's call him Mr. D, was a little sketchy. He drove cars that were way too expensive for the salary he was supposed to be making. He always seemed to have a new watch on his wrist, sometimes Rolex, sometimes Patek Philippe. Meanwhile, the rest of us were rationing office supplies and begging for raises that never came. It didn't add up. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe he had some family money, maybe his wife was rich, maybe he had some amazing side hustle. But the more I paid attention, the more it gnawed at me. The financial reports were always late, vendors complained about missing payments, and yet somehow he had just bought himself a brand new Porsche. The moment that broke me was when a colleague I'm close with was denied her promotion because the budget was tight, while the next day Mr. D showed up with a diamond bracelet for his secretary. I couldn't stand the hypocrisy anymore. I told myself I wasn't doing this out of spite. I told myself I was being the hero, the whistleblower, the guy who finally exposed the corruption. But in truth, I think I was also driven by pure curiosity. I wanted to know. And once that idea took root, it wouldn't leave me alone. I Googled private investigators in my city one night, feeling like some paranoid husband about to check on a cheating spouse. It felt ridiculous at first. But 2 days later, I found myself sitting in a tiny office that smelled like stale cigarettes and old leather, sliding a manila envelope full of cash across the desk to this guy in a wrinkled suit who called himself Rick. That's how it started. And I swear, the moment the money left my hand, I felt this mix of adrenaline and dread. Like I was crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. But part of me was thrilled, too. For once, I wasn't just a passive bystander. I was doing something. I was taking control. A week later, Rick came back with his findings. And yes, my boss was stealing. He had set up shell companies, fake invoices, money being funneled out little by little. Classic corporate fraud stuff. I felt a rush of vindication at first, like, ha! I knew it! I wasn't crazy. But then Rick leaned in and said, that's just the surface. Do you want to hear the rest? And I swear, my stomach dropped. He pulled out a second folder, much thicker than the first, and suddenly I wasn't sure I wanted to know anymore. Inside were things that went way beyond fraud. Things about my boss's personal life, his connections, the kinds of people he was meeting with. I'm talking names that shouldn't even be in the same sentence with our boring logistics company. Politicians. Shady businessmen. People who don't exactly like being exposed. And then, this is the part that's haunting me, there was something in there about me. About how I had once unknowingly signed off on documents that were part of the fraudulent scheme. My signature, right there like a smoking gun. That's when it hit me. If this ever comes out, it's not just my boss who's going down. It's me too. Maybe not as the mastermind, but as the idiot who helped him, even if I didn't realize it at the time. And worse, if my boss figures out I'm the one who sent Rick after him, I don't even want to imagine what happens next. So now I'm stuck. I have proof that my boss is a criminal. But I also have proof that ties me into the mess. If I go to HR or the authorities, I risk destroying my own life. If I stay quiet, I'm complicit. And if anyone else finds out, well, let's just say I've been sleeping with one eye open lately. And here's the kicker. Nobody knows about this. Not my friends, not my family, not even the coworker who first made me suspicious. I've been carrying it alone, pretending everything is fine at the office, making small talk by the coffee machine while my chest is on fire inside. So yeah. That's my confession. I thought I was going to be the hero. Instead, I might have just set myself up to be the villain, or the scapegoat. Would you have done what I did? Or should I have just minded my own business and kept my head down? You'd think after finding out all that, I would have immediately cut ties with a private investigator, shredded every piece of evidence, and gone back to pretending I knew nothing. But the truth is, once you open Pandora's box, you can't just slam it shut again. I couldn't stop thinking about those files, those names, my own stupid signature sitting there like a trap waiting to snap. Every time my boss walked past my desk, smiling like nothing was wrong, I felt my stomach twist. Did he know? Did he suspect? Or was I still invisible to him? The paranoia started small. I began locking my phone with a new passcode, double-checking my email drafts, looking over my shoulder when I printed something. But then it grew. I caught myself scanning the office parking lot for unfamiliar cars. At night, I couldn't sleep without checking the locks on my apartment 3, sometimes 4 times. The stupidest part? I didn't even know what I was scared of more. My boss finding out I hired someone to spy on him, or the cops knocking on my door with a warrant because my name was tied to fraudulent paperwork. I tried telling myself it was all in my head. That maybe the PI had exaggerated, that maybe he was just trying to spook me into paying him more. But then the coincidences started happening. One morning I came into the office early. Too early, really. The place was almost empty, just the cleaning crew and me. As I walked past my boss's office, I noticed his door was cracked open, and inside, his desk lamp was still on. Papers were spread across the desk, and on top of them was a folder. The same brand and size as the one Rick had shown me. For a split second, my heart froze. Did my boss have his own file on me? I didn't dare step inside to check, but the image burned into my brain. Then there was the time I was heading home and noticed a black SUV in my rearview mirror. At first, I brushed it off. It's a city, people drive the same route all the time. But the car followed me for 12 blocks, made every same turn, even slowed down when I did. I only lost it when I pulled into a gas station and sat there pretending to check my tire pressure. When I looked up again, it was gone. Maybe it was nothing. Or maybe not. The worst moment, though, came a week later. I got a plain white envelope slipped under my apartment door. No stamp, no address, just my name scrawled in messy handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper with one sentence: "Stop digging, or you'll regret it." No signature, no clue who had sent it. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it in the sink. I burned it that night in a coffee can on my balcony, but the smell of the smoke clung to me for days. By this point, I was a wreck. My coworkers started asking if I was sick because I looked pale and exhausted. I snapped at my best friend when he invited me out for drinks, then spent the night staring at my phone, wanting so badly to call him and unload everything, but knowing I couldn't. Who would believe me? Who should believe me? And yet, I couldn't stop myself from going back to Rick. I told myself I needed clarity, maybe even reassurance that I wasn't losing my mind. I met him in this dingy diner off the highway, the kind of place where the neon sign flickers and the waitress looks like she's been there since the 80s. Rick sat across from me, sipping burnt coffee, looking bored. When I told him about the envelope and the SUV, he just shrugged. "That's the kind of company your boss keeps," he said. "You stir the pot, you're gonna get splashed." I asked him if I should go to the police, but he laughed. Literally laughed in my face. "Kid, you think the police aren't already in on it? You think names like the ones I showed you don't have friends in every department? You walk in there waving those files, and you won't make it to your car." His words made me cold inside. I wanted to tell him to stop, to walk away, but part of me couldn't resist asking one more question. What about me? Am I in danger? Rick didn't answer right away. He just studied me for a long moment, like he was deciding how much truth I could handle. Then he leaned in, his voice low. "You're already in it. Your signature's on those papers. Whether you knew what you were signing or not doesn't matter. If someone needs a fall guy, congratulations. You fit the bill." That night, I couldn't eat. I couldn't even sit still. I paced my apartment until sunrise, my mind looping the same thought over and over. I'm screwed. No matter what I do, I'm screwed. And yet, here's the sick part. A small, twisted part of me felt alive. I'd gone from being just another office drone to living in some kind of crime thriller. My heart pounded every day, adrenaline replacing caffeine. Fear and excitement became so tangled up, I couldn't tell them apart anymore. But deep down, I knew this wasn't sustainable. Something was going to break. Me, my boss, or everything around us. And when it did, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be the one holding the match, or running from the fire. So now I'm stuck asking myself the same question over and over. Do I expose him and risk my own life crashing down? Or do I keep my mouth shut, live with the guilt, and hope nobody ever notices? If you were me, what would you do? Play it safe and stay silent, or take the risk and blow everything up? After that night of pacing my apartment until dawn, I made myself a promise. No more digging, no more asking questions, no more mysterious meetings in diners with men who smelled like old smoke and cynicism. I was going to lay low, do my job, keep my head down, and pray the storm passed over me. It sounded like a good plan at 3 in the morning, but like most plans born out of exhaustion and fear, it didn't last. The problem was, once you've seen behind the curtain, you can't unsee it. I sat at my desk the next day, typing up shipping manifests, pretending to care about deadlines and client calls, and all I could think about was the file with my name in it. Every email from my boss, every meeting, every raised eyebrow from him suddenly felt like a test. Did he know I was onto him? Did he suspect I had proof? Or was he just playing his part, smiling and nodding while sharpening the knife behind his back? Then came the staff meeting that broke me. Mr. D strolled in late, as usual, wearing a brand new suit that probably cost more than my entire monthly salary. He laughed, joked, slapped people on the back like he was everyone's best friend. And then, with the most casual tone, he announced there would be budget cuts. Travel reimbursements were suspended, overtime would no longer be paid out, and, this was the kicker, 2 departments would be merged, which basically meant layoffs. People around the table looked stunned. A few tried to protest, but he just brushed it off with corporate buzzwords: streamlining, efficiency, long-term stability. My stomach churned. I knew where the money was going. I knew why we were suddenly streamlining. And yet I couldn't say a word. Watching my co-workers' faces, people with mortgages, kids, medical bills, I wanted to stand up and scream, "He's lying to you all." But I didn't. I sat there like a coward, nodding along, clenching my fists under the table so hard I left crescent marks in my palms. That night I drank. Heavily. Whiskey straight from the bottle, like I thought it would burn away the guilt. Instead, it loosened my tongue. I ended up calling my friend Alex, the one I'd been avoiding, and half slurred into the phone, "You ever feel like you're in too deep?" He laughed, thought I was talking about some girl problem, and said, "Man, just shoot your shot." I almost told him everything right then. Almost. But something in me clamped down, and I changed the subject. Even drunk, I couldn't risk dragging him into this. The following week, something happened that made it impossible to keep pretending. A coworker, let's call her Jenna, got fired. Officially, it was poor performance. Unofficially, I knew it was because she'd been asking too many questions about unpaid vendor invoices. She came to my desk the day before it happened, frustrated, saying, "Doesn't it bother you that the numbers never add up?" I gave her some half-hearted excuse about not my department, and prayed she'd drop it. The next morning, security escorted her out with a box of her stuff. Just like that. Gone. That was when the guilt curdled into something else. Rage. If my boss could ruin people's lives to cover his tracks, how long before it was my turn? How long before he decided I was asking too many questions? Or worse, before he found out I already had the answers? I pulled out Rick's second folder again that night. I'd told myself I would burn it, that keeping it was too dangerous. But I couldn't. And as I flipped through those pages again, my eyes kept landing on my own signature. It mocked me. Proof of my stupidity. Proof that, whether I liked it or not, I was part of his scheme. That's when the idea hit me. Maybe I couldn't go to the police. Maybe I couldn't even go to HR. But what if I went anonymous? I'd seen whistleblower forums online, places where people dump documents and evidence for journalists to pick up. If I scanned the files, blurred out my name, maybe I could leak enough to expose him without destroying myself. It was reckless, yes, but the thought gave me a strange sense of hope. Like maybe there was a way out of this where I didn't end up handcuffed or worse. So I started preparing. Bought a cheap burner laptop in cash. Downloaded Tor. Read guides on secure leaks until my eyes crossed. I felt like a character in some bad spy movie, but it gave me a purpose. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't just reacting. I was planning. But the deeper I got, the scarier it became. These weren't just shady invoices. There were names of politicians, offshore accounts, coded transactions that looked suspiciously like laundering. If this ever got out, it wouldn't just be my boss in trouble. It would be huge. The kind of scandal that takes down careers, companies, maybe even governments. And here's the kicker. I think someone knew what I was doing. One night, as I was scanning documents, my internet cut out. No big deal, right? Happens all the time. Except when it came back, my laptop screen flickered. For half a second, I saw a message flash. Too quick to read, but enough to chill me. I told myself it was nothing, a glitch. But then the next morning, I found my front door slightly ajar. I know I locked it. Nothing was stolen, nothing moved. But that was somehow worse. Whoever it was, they wanted me to know they'd been there. So now I'm back at square one. Do I leak the files and risk bringing the fire down on myself? Or do I bury them and live the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, knowing I let people like Mr. D keep winning? The funny part is, a month ago my biggest worry was whether I'd ever get a raise. Now I'm wondering if I'll wake up tomorrow to find my whole life burned down. Tell me honestly, if you were sitting on evidence that could destroy powerful people but also ruin you in the process, would you go public? Or would you stay silent and hope no one ever connects the dots? I don't know what exactly pushed me over the edge. Maybe it was Jenna's face when security marched her out, or maybe it was that eerie night when my front door was left unlocked, like a silent reminder that I wasn't as invisible as I thought. Whatever it was, I decided I couldn't sit on the files any longer. I had to act. I had to do something, even if it meant stepping into the fire. So I started with the safest route I could think of: journalists. Real investigative reporters who lived for stories like this. I spent hours combing through articles, hunting for names that had taken down corruption before. Eventually, I found one, someone who had exposed a senator's embezzlement scandal 2 years ago. They were legit, brave, reckless. The kind of person who wouldn't flinch at documents with blood on them. I drafted an email using my burner laptop, triple encrypted, bouncing through a VPN and Tor. I sounded calm, professional, detached, though my hands shook so hard on the keyboard it took me nearly an hour to write 3 paragraphs. I told them I had evidence of financial misconduct involving corporate fraud and political connections. I didn't attach anything yet, just a teaser, to see if they'd bite. They replied within 12 hours. Interested. Send samples. We'll protect you. I should have felt relieved. Instead, it felt like the walls of my apartment got smaller. Someone was officially on the hook now. Someone knew I existed. And that meant someone else could find out too. So I waited. Days passed. I told myself I was being smart, cautious, methodical. In truth, I was terrified. I barely ate, barely slept. I jumped every time my phone buzzed. And then, just when I was about to convince myself to back out, something happened at work that lit the fuse. Mr. D announced another budget restructuring. This time it wasn't just layoffs, it was entire contracts cut, clients dropped, people who'd been with the company for over a decade suddenly no longer needed. He stood there in front of everyone, calm as ever, delivering the news like he was reading the weather. And the worst part? People clapped. Not because they agreed, but because they were too scared not to. That night, I scanned the first batch of documents and sent them to the journalist. I included invoices, wire transfers, a few names, enough to prove I wasn't bluffing, but not enough to incriminate myself directly. I clicked send, and sat there staring at the screen, waiting for my world to explode. Nothing happened. Not immediately, anyway. The journalist thanked me, said it was a strong lead, and promised to dig deeper. I should have felt triumphant, but instead, the paranoia doubled. Every knock at my door, every strange car outside my building, every glance from my boss felt like a signal that they knew. That somehow, despite all my precautions, I'd left a breadcrumb trail. Then came the incident that nearly broke me. I was leaving the office late, past midnight, the building mostly empty, when the elevator doors opened and Mr. D walked in. Just him and me, alone in a metal box. He gave me that fake friendly smile and said, "Burning the midnight oil, huh?" I mumbled something, eyes fixed on the floor. Then he leaned in slightly, lowered his voice, and said, "You know, loyalty is everything in this business. People forget that sometimes. And when they do..." He let the sentence hang there, unfinished, but the look in his eyes said everything. My hands were sweating so much I nearly dropped my bag. When the doors finally opened, I bolted out like a scared rabbit. Did he know? Was it just a coincidence? Or was he warning me? That night, I barely slept. And when I did, I dreamed of faceless men dragging me out of my apartment in the dark. I woke up to my phone buzzing. An email from the journalist. "This goes deeper than I thought. But I need more. Names. Proof of the offshore accounts. Can you get it?" That's when I realized I was in too deep. I couldn't stop now, not without looking suspicious, not without leaving the journalist hanging. But to get more meant digging further, which meant risking everything. So I made a choice. The dumbest, bravest, or most suicidal choice of my life. I broke into my boss's office. It wasn't as dramatic as it sounds. I'd stayed late under the excuse of finishing reports. Waited until everyone else left. Then I used the spare key I'd swiped weeks earlier from the office manager's desk, something I'd told myself I'd never actually use. My heart pounded so loud I thought the night guard would hear it. Inside, the office smelled of expensive cologne and leather. His desk was immaculate, but I knew from the glimpse weeks ago that he kept files hidden in the bottom drawer. I rifled through them, snapping photos with my burner phone, contracts, account statements, coded spreadsheets. One folder in particular made me freeze. It wasn't labeled, but inside were memos, emails, and lists of names. Recognizable names. Politicians. Judges. Even a journalist or two. Some with amounts of money written next to them, others with what looked like favors or deliverables. I wanted to vomit. This wasn't just fraud. This was a web. And I was holding evidence that could unravel it all. Then I heard it, the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, deliberate. My blood turned to ice. I shoved the folder back, closed the drawer, and darted to the corner of the room just as the doorknob rattled. For a second, I thought it was Mr. D himself. But it was just the janitor. He peeked in, saw the lights off, and moved on. I stood there, heart hammering, until the footsteps faded. Then I bolted, files stuffed in my bag, hands shaking so hard I could barely lock the office door behind me. That night, I sent the journalist everything. Every photo, every file, every smoking gun. And then I sat in the dark, staring at my front door, waiting for it to be kicked in. Because now there was no going back. If my boss didn't know before, he'd find out soon enough. And when he did, my name wouldn't just be on some documents, it would be on a hit list. So here I am, confessing this to strangers on the internet because I don't know how much longer I can keep this to myself. Did I just make the bravest move of my life? Or the stupidest? And if you were me, would you have dared to go into that office, knowing one wrong move could end everything? The morning after I sent those files, I woke up with the taste of metal in my mouth, like I'd been chewing on fear all night. My phone was silent. No reply from the journalist. No angry email from my boss. No ominous knocks at the door. Just silence. And somehow, that was worse than anything. I dragged myself to work like a zombie, convinced that everyone was staring at me, that they knew what I had done. But the office was the same as always. Phones ringing, keyboards clattering, my boss laughing too loudly in his office like nothing in the world could touch him. For a split second, I wondered if maybe I'd dreamed it all. Maybe the files were meaningless, maybe the journalist had deleted them, maybe I was just another paranoid employee with an overactive imagination. Then, 3 days later, it happened. A headline appeared online: corporate fraud tied to political figures. Anonymous whistleblower leaks evidence. No company name, no specific boss, but the documents were there. The invoices, the offshore accounts, the list of names. Redacted, blurred, but unmistakable to anyone who knew what they were looking at. My files. My evidence. My fingerprints all over the biggest scandal of the year. The story spread like wildfire. News outlets picked it up. Social media exploded with theories. Politicians denied everything. Companies issued statements. Lawyers started circling like vultures. And me. I sat in my cubicle, staring at my monitor, pretending to work while the world burned around me. By the end of the week, investigators raided 2 of the shell companies tied to the fraud. The journalists hinted that more revelations were coming. My boss still acted calm, but I could see it, the cracks in his facade. His smile was tighter. His phone calls were longer and quieter. He shut his office door more often. And when his eyes landed on me, there was something sharp in them. Like he was trying to solve a puzzle, and I was one of the missing pieces. That weekend, the journalist finally emailed me again. "You've done more than you know. This will take time, but the story is already too big to bury. Stay safe. Stay safe." Easy for them to say. Because things didn't stay quiet for long. One night, I came home to find my apartment trashed. Drawers pulled out, papers scattered, couch cushions slashed open like someone thought I'd hidden gold inside them. My laptop was gone, along with the burner phone I'd used for the leaks. They didn't steal anything else, just the tech. It was a message. I wasn't safe anymore. I didn't call the police. What was I going to say? "Hi, officer. Some people connected to organized crime broke into my place because I leaked files about corporate fraud to the media?" Yeah, that would end well. Instead, I cleaned up what I could, packed a bag, and checked into a cheap motel on the other side of town. The next day at work, Mr. D wasn't there. Rumor was he'd gone on vacation, but no one believed it. People whispered in the hallways, eyes darting around like prey animals who just realized there was a predator among them. A week later, his name appeared in one of the articles. Not front and center, but in the background, tied to shady accounts and false invoices. The wolves were closing in. And here's the part that still chills me. He never came back. One day he was there, the next he was gone. No goodbye, no resignation email, no farewell drinks at the bar. Just gone. His office cleared out overnight. Desk empty, nameplate removed. HR told us he'd decided to pursue other opportunities, which was corporate speak for we're pretending this didn't happen. But I knew better. He hadn't left voluntarily. Whether it was the politicians, the businessmen, or someone even higher up, he'd been erased. And with him gone, the trail that led back to me. Well, let's just say I don't know if it's hidden or if it's waiting to be discovered. Since then, life has been strange. The company pretends everything is fine. We have a new interim boss, endless restructuring meetings, and a morale seminar scheduled for next month. My coworkers joke about it like it's business as usual. But sometimes, when they think no one is watching, I catch the fear in their eyes too. They know something is wrong. They just don't know how deep it goes. As for me, I don't sleep much. I keep my bag packed, just in case I need to run. I changed my phone number, moved to a different apartment, even stopped seeing friends for a while. Paranoia has become my shadow. Every knock at the door makes my heart stop. Every unknown number feels like a death sentence. And yet, a part of me feels proud. The story is out. The corruption is being exposed piece by piece. People are talking, asking questions, demanding answers. For once, I wasn't just another silent cog in the machine. For once, I made a difference. But here's the part one can't escape. I don't know how long I'll be safe. My boss may be gone, but his friends aren't. The people with power, the ones who benefited from his schemes, they're still out there. Watching. Waiting. Maybe even reading this right now. So that's my confession. I hired a PI. I dug too deep. I leaked the truth. And now I'm living with the consequences, half hero, half ghost, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Would you have done the same? Would you risk your job, your freedom, maybe even your life to expose the truth? Or would you have stayed quiet, swallowed your guilt, and lived in the safety of silence? Because I still don't know if I was brave, or just incredibly, incredibly stupid.